An Ontario man says he will fight a fine of nearly $4,000 he got at the Windsor-Detroit border tunnel. He runs a construction company that's currently building a grocery store in Michigan. Despite having no issues in the past, Canadian border officials now disagree with his claim of being an essential worker. The CBC's Sanjay Maru is live at the Windsor-Detroit tunnel. So Sanjay, what exactly happened here?
Well, Andrew, it's a situation Ron Roos calls, quote, incorrect and immoral. As president of his construction company, he normally works from home, but says he needs to cross the border about once every 2 weeks to attend a work site in person whenever necessary. And he says, as you mentioned, he's had no issue doing that in the past, but that all changed earlier this week, on Tuesday to be specific. Now, he says on that day, he spent 4 hours in Michigan, again, attending a work site in person, but on his way back to head home into Canada, he was told by officials with the Canada Border Services Agency here at the Windsor-Detroit tunnel that his trip was, quote, non-essential because he doesn't cross the border every day. Now, Roost disagreed, citing the nature of his work and the fact that he has crossed the border in the past with no issue, but he was still pulled into secondary. At that point, he says he was given two options: return to the U.S., get a test for COVID-19, and come back to the border here with a negative result, or go to Toronto and quarantine in a hotel there for 2 weeks. Roos denied both those options, and he was essentially fined more than, or rather about $3,800 from the Public Health Agency of Canada. He plans to fight that ticket, but he also says that for the border to decide who is and is not essential based on how frequently they cross the border just does not make sense.
So some people could build up 3-4 weeks of vacation like a nurse and go there, and they say you haven't traveled in 4 weeks, you're not going every day, you're not essential anymore. So there's really lack of clarity, and if their intent was to stop the travelers from coming back, and I hope to keep the intent with the travelers, not the essential workers.
So Sanjay, it appears this condition over the frequency of travel has been confusing for some border crossers. How widespread of a concern is this?
Well, Andrew, I spoke with a cross-border attorney who tells me she's fielded about 15 to 20 calls from business people in all sectors citing similar concerns as Roos. Today, we also heard from Windsor West MP Brian Massey saying his office also flooded with calls for essential travelers, people who thought they were essential, but today, or rather this week, they're being told that they are being denied re-entry into Canada. And we also heard from the CBSA through a statement. They confirmed to me that frequency of travel does have an impact on whether or not someone is deemed essential. Take a look at this quote, the CBSA telling me the traveler must cross the border regularly to go to their normal place of employment and demonstrate a regular pattern of travel, which is generally defined as daily or weekly. But that cross-border attorney I spoke with says different industries can have different definitions of who's essential. One industry may ask a Canadian employee to cross the border once a week. Another industry may ask their Canadian employer to cross the border once every 3 weeks. But this cross-border attorney tells me that she fears this new rule could actually do more harm than good in terms of preventing the cross-border spread of COVID-19.
This person is essential. They're only going once a week, as opposed to what people are hearing at the border saying, well, you're not needed every day, so therefore you may not come. Well, do you know what the counter effect of that is? People are now saying, well, I'm now going to go into the U.S. every day to make sure that my permit is valid, to make sure that I'm not quarantining. So it is counterintuitive.
And as for Roos, he tells me that if crossing the border continues to be a problem, he'll actually consider a temporary move to the U.S. from his home in Belle River just so he can continue running his business. And he adds that as long as this frequency of travel rule determining who is and is not essential remains in effect, it's going to prevent many essential workers from making a living. Andrew.
Sanjay, thank you. The CBC's Sanjay Maru at the Windsor-Detroit border tunnel. We are going to Victoria.